This is the first unit for the subject English Language System and Application Software. In this unit, we will talk about different uses of computers and how various professions may benefit from using the computers. Everyone will agree that computers have changed society in many ways, and that they are one of the supreme and best inventions ever made in the history of modern technology. Computers have brought numerous and countless advances to many different fields of studies, as well as in the lives of many people. They have changed how people work and have opened new methods and means of acquiring new knowledge and skills. Computers are now being used in various fields, from education to medicine, business, government, science, publishing, industry, and a lot more. Through the computer and the internet, we are able to discover new ways in getting hold of informative and useful information in almost any field of studies. Let's try to uncover some of the benefits of using computers and the internet. Take a look at the pictures on the following slides and think about who might be these computer users and what they are doing. Now, let's go back to the first slide. Listen to the text. We have got a new program with 3D graphics to encourage young children to tell stories. We tried it out last term and now we use it regularly. There is a mat in front of the monitor like a carpet. There are pressure pads under the mat. When the children stand on them, they can move about inside the pictures on the screen. If they stand on the right, they can move to the right and so on. The good thing is that it works better if there are more children on the mat. This encourages them to work together. So, this is just one of many examples of how computers might be used for teaching children. What do you think about teaching through playing computer games? Think about and note down your ideas about how to teach children and adults using different computer applications. Who is a computer user on the next slide? Listen to the text. I have had a computer for about 3 years now. I'm an Open University student doing a degree in mathematics. I work full-time, so I study at home in the evenings and at weekends. Some Saturdays there are tutorials I can attend in town, but mostly I work alone. I use the computer to write my assignments. I also use the internet to email my tutor if I have any problems with the coursework. There is a help group too on the web, made up of other students doing my course, not just here in the UK, but around the world. We can chat about assignments and help each other out if we are in difficulty. What do you think about online or distance learning? Make notes about what you think is different in distance learning compared to an in-class learning. Write about your experience as a distance learning student. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Now, listen to the text about the person shown on the next slide. How is he using the computer? I paint mainly figures in imaginary interiors. They represent myths. I keep photographs of most of what I've done, apart from the work I've destroyed, the ones I didn't like. I've scanned in about a third of these photographs, around 100 paintings, to make a CD. I've organized the paintings into themes and added a soundtrack so that each group of paintings is accompanied by music. I'll send the CD to dealers. I'm also going to start my own website to try to sell directly. The difficult thing is trying to get people to visit your site. What do you think about promoting art using computer and the internet? Is this a good way to distribute information about your work? How would you do it? Now, think about how the following professions may benefit from using the computers. Which computer applications would they be using? Architects, interior designers, farmers, landscape gardeners, musicians, rally drivers, and salespeople. Just to give you an idea, for example, architects could use computers to design buildings or to show different design ideas to their clients. Make notes about the ideas you come up with. Your next task is to describe how you use computers in your study and in your free time. You can send your papers and all the notes you made through this unit to iris@edu.fit.bar for checking. Just to remind you, this is one of the ways how you can earn some extra points that will determine your final grade for this subject. You may as well open the topic Computer Users on the forum under the subject English Language, System and Application Software and exchange opinions about this topic, or tell me your ideas in our next turn for online consultations. The next thing we will talk about is related to grammar. We will make revision of two tenses, present perfect tense and past simple tense. We'll talk about the rules how to form these two tenses and then about the differences in their use. Present perfect tense is formed using two components, the auxiliary verb have in the present tense and the past participle form of a main verb. For example, I have worked in the same company for 20 years. Or, I have been in Italy twice this year. Pay attention to the third person singular. In this case, we will have the following sentences. She has worked in the same company for 20 years. Or, he has been in Italy twice this year. How do we make questions in present perfect tense? If a sentence says, I have lost my keys, in order to make a yes-no question, we would change places of an auxiliary verb have and the subject, and we would get a question like this. Have you lost your keys? Possible short answers would be yes, I have, or no, I haven't. To make a WH question, you need to put an appropriate question word at the beginning of the sentence, then the auxiliary verb have, then the subject, then the main verb. So the question would be, what have you lost? Let's take another example. If the sentence is, she has cleaned her bedroom, a yes-no question for this sentence would be, has she cleaned her bedroom? Possible short answers would be, yes, she has, and no, she hasn't. A WH question would be, what has she cleaned? We can make negative sentences in present perfect tense in two ways. One way is to insert not in between an auxiliary verb have and the main verb. If a positive sentence is, I have read that book, then the negative form of this sentence would be, I have not read that book. Or with a contracted form, it would be, I haven't read that book. Another example. If a sentence is, I have climbed the mountain, then the negative form of this sentence would be, I have not climbed the mountain. Or with a contracted form, it would be, I haven't climbed the mountain. We can make a negative sentence in present perfect tense by using never. For the given examples, the sentences would be like this. I have never read that book. Or, I have never climbed a mountain. Remember, in an English sentence, we cannot have double negation. So, it would be incorrect to use never and to negate an auxiliary verb have. This means that it would be incorrect to say, I haven't never read that book. Be careful with this. Simple past tense. With regular verbs, the simple past tense is created simply by adding ed. For example, walk, walked, work, worked, play, played. The only way to know how an irregular verb will change in the past tense is to learn past tense forms of these verbs. Here are some examples of the sentences in simple past tense. She played with her cat. I was in Italy last year. I learned a poem by heart. I saw her yesterday. How do we make questions in simple past tense? If we have a sentence, she was in Italy last year, you notice that in this sentence, the verb to be is used in past tense. In order to make a yes-no question for the sentence where we have the verb to be in the past tense, we would have to change the places of the verb and the subject. So we would get a question, was she in Italy last year? Possible short answers would be, yes, she was, or no, she wasn't. A WH question for the given sentence would be, when was she in Italy? For all other verbs, other than the verb to be, you would follow a different rule. For example, if a sentence is, I learned a poem by heart, in order to make a yes-no question, we have to use auxiliary verb to do in past tense, which would be did. Then we would put a subject and then the main verb in its infinitive form. Did you learn a poem by heart? Possible short answers would be, yes, I did, or no, I didn't. To make a WH question, you would put an appropriate question word at the beginning of the sentence, then did, then the subject, then the main verb in its infinitive form. What did you learn by heart? Let's take another example. She played with her cat. A yes-no question would be, did she play with her cat? Possible short answers would be, yes, she did, or no, she didn't. A WH question for this sentence would be, who did she play with? How do we make negative sentences in simple past tense? If the verb to be is used in past tense, as in a sentence, I was in Italy last year, to make a negative sentence, we just add not after the verb. So we will get a sentence, I was not in Italy last year, or with the contracted form, I wasn't in Italy last year. If we had a sentence, we were in Italy last year, then the negative form of the sentence would be, we were not in Italy last year. For all other verbs other than the verb to be, we would follow a different rule. If a sentence says, I learned the poem by heart, to make a negative sentence, we need to use auxiliary verb to do in the past tense, which is did. Then we would put not, and after that the main verb in its infinitive form. I didn't learn a poem by heart. If a sentence was, she played with her cat, then a negative form of this sentence would be, she did not play with her cat, or with the contracted form it would be, she didn't play with her cat. Next thing we will talk about is the differences in the use of present perfect tense and simple past tense. The most important thing to remember is that the present perfect tense usually refers to actions which are somehow related to the present time, thus the name of the tense. Past simple tense usually refers to the actions that happened and are completed in the past. Present perfect tense can refer to unfinished actions that started in the past and continue to the present. For example, I have known Julie for 10 years and I still know her. Whereas, if we use past simple, it would refer to the finished actions. And we will have a sentence, I knew Julie for 10 years, but then she moved away and we lost touch. So, if past simple tense is used, then we know that this is a completed action that finished in the past. Let's take other examples. If we say, I have played tennis for 10 years, in this sentence we use present perfect tense, and it would mean that I still play tennis. But if we say, I played tennis when I was a child, in this sentence we use past simple tense, and this would mean that I stopped playing tennis. I'm not playing it anymore. Present perfect tense can refer to a finished action in someone's life. But it's important to point out that this person is still alive. For example, my brother has been to Mexico 3 times. This means that the person mentioned in the sentence can experience the same thing again. If the past simple is used, then it would mean that the person in question is no longer living. So, past simple would refer to a finished action in someone's life, but when the person is dead. So we would say, my great-grandmother went to Mexico 3 times. Let's take other examples. We would say, Nura Bazdul has written several novels. In this sentence, we used present perfect tense because this person can write again. There is a possibility that this will happen again. But we would say Ivo Andrić won Nobel Prize in Literature because this refers to a person who is now dead. Present perfect tense can refer to finished action with a result in the present. For example, I have lost my keys. So this action is somehow related to the present. The result is that I cannot get into my house now. On the other hand, past simple would refer to a finished action with no result in the present. I lost my keys yesterday, and it was terrible. Now there is no result because I got new keys yesterday. Let's take other examples. We would say, I have just finished my homework. In this sentence, we use present perfect tense because this action has a result in the present. On the other hand, we would say, I finished my homework yesterday. In this sentence, we use past simple tense because we know that there is no result in the present time. If we use an unfinished time word, for example, this week, this month, or today, then it is appropriate to use present perfect tense. For example, I have seen John this week. Or, I have found Goran this morning. If we use finished time words, such as last week, last month, or yesterday, then it would be appropriate to use past simple tense. For example, I saw John last week. Or, I found Goran yesterday. This is a reminder of the signal words that are usually used with simple past tense and with the present perfect tense. To practice, make a sentence using each of these signal words with an appropriate tense. Remember, we use the past simple tense for past events or actions which have no connection to the present. We use the present perfect tense for actions which started in the past and are still happening now, or for finished actions which have a connection to the present. We cannot use the present perfect with a finished time word, so it would be incorrect to say, I have been to the museum yesterday. Remember to do exercises and to document computer user posted on the distance learning system. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to iris@edu.fit.ba or ask them in our next online consultations.